Hi there. Welcome to the Street Epistemology call-in show. I'm juggling lessons. If many of you probably haven't seen me in about 9 months, I had a hiatus, and now I'm kind of back.
Yay.
With me is no, the other way. Lisa. Hello, Lisa. You're over there.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
Lisa from Salt Lake, who does SE, and me from Los Angeles, who does SE. And today is our Saturday call-in show. We invite you all to call in. I'm hoping that there's something in the chat that will make that easy.
In the chat.
Yep. I brought a ringer. Oftentimes in street epistemology, we are interviewing people who are persons on the street and not particularly experts in the claims that they make. And so there are a lot of examples of relatively poor epistemology being relatively poorly evidenced claims being made. So I'm hoping to bring a few examples of the alternative. So I grabbed a scientist. I have a friend who's a scientist. I know it's strange, but my scientist friend is one of them is Dr. Herschel Knapp. I bet somebody's gonna. Oh, there he is. Hi there.
Hi, Herschel Knapp.
Hello, Dr. Herschel.
Oh, hello.
I think we're supposed to call you Hirsch, right?
Call you hello. Hirsch. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Welcome, Hirsch.
Good afternoon.
Please, please.
Yeah,
hi. Good to know y'all.
So, with SE, first of all, would you like to introduce yourself at all? Would you like to tell us who you are and why we should listen to you?
Yeah. Hi. So I'm a behavioral scientist. I have degrees in psychology and social work. I'm also done considerable years in medical research and clinical work. Also a lot of teaching. I'm a clinical associate professor now, and also doing some part-time teaching for California State University, Los Angeles, which is the focal point of the research that I'm going to present today.
Awesome.
Okay. So, what was the claim that you were exploring in this research, in this specific study?
Yeah, so they did something really innovative in their Bachelor's of Social Work program. This is a program that typically requires a 400-hour internship, a clinical internship. So in addition to the classroom work, students will be assigned to do clinical work in various field assignments. Everyone gets a different assignment, and they'll work directly with patients, clients, and they are graded at the midpoint at the end of the first semester. So they do this part-time, 2 days a week, and then they'll go back for a second semester and do another 200 hours, and they'll be evaluated at the end of that point. The school tried something new and innovative. They wanted to see if those 400 hours could be fulfilled instead of 2 part-time semesters. What if it was done in a 10-week block, all 400 hours full-time in a 10-week block? So 40 hours a week times 10 weeks, there's 400 hours, and then evaluate them at 5 weeks and 10 weeks, see how it works out. So the research question was, the claim was, how is this summer program performing compared to the traditional 2-semester part-time program? And they brought me in to do the analysis. So the data is based, I'm not going to give you the solution yet. The data is based on the field instructors, this is a senior clinician, evaluation of the students' performance. And they're evaluated on 9 professional domains: ethics, diversity, social justice, research, policy, engagement, assessment, intervention, and evaluation. And there's multiple questions on each of them. They're scored on a 1 to 5 scale. So the statistics were absolutely within reach. And I was brought in to analyze the data and answer the question, is the summer session, the full time, providing an equivalent or good enough experience compared to the data that we have on the traditional part-timers? And I was keeping my fingers crossed that they would be as good. But, I don't know. I can't tell by looking at a big Excel sheet, a huge array of numbers. So this is where the statistics come in, which is going to reduce it to a readable answer. And I have the answer. So which is currently pending publication. So I'm excited about this.
So why should I trust that you are qualified to evaluate the statistics?
Sure. Well, my doctoral training was essentially in research methodology, statistics. Essentially, the PhD program in behavioral science, there's two kinds. There's a clinical track that makes you a great clinician and leader. Another kind is to focus on advancing the science. So the masters will apply what's known, but the PhDs will create new science that people can reach for and keep on evaluating and evolving the discipline. And so that was my road. UCLA, it was a wonderful program, wonderful experience. I've worked in medical research, published more than 50 papers in peer-reviewed journals. It's a pretty high mark. Published statistics textbooks. So, with all humility, I know what I'm doing. I teach statistics to bachelor's, master's, doctoral students, and it always works. It works great. So those are my qualifications.
I have a question. Did you have a bias going into it? Did you want it to be one or the other, or were you just, how did you eliminate it if you did?
I was keeping my fingers crossed that the summer session would be as good, that there'd be no statistically significant difference in these evaluations comparing the part-time, which we already accept, to this full-time, which was a big risk. What if it didn't work? So that's what I was keeping my fingers crossed on, along with the field director who coordinated the data gathering for me. But that was just my hope. But the thing about science is you can have all the hopes you want, and that can inspire the research question and the line of inquiry and the good efforts. But essentially, you don't know what you have until you run the numbers. And when the numbers came out, that's when I had my answer. So the wish is one thing, but the truth is essentially the conclusion.
So there is a clear one that is better than the other, or more effective.
I'm not gonna give any clues.
He's not allowed to say that until we close the poll.
To not disclose the result.
Okay.
Just to describe the study, and
Gotcha.
And I will get into that, but I want to be clear that this was not just calculating averages, used inferential statistics to make the determination. So it wasn't me just looking at the average of this and average of that and saying, oh my goodness, look at that. There's inferential statistics t-test, Mann-Whitney U-test that conduct an appropriate, objective, empirical analysis for you.
Cool.
If I wanted to read, if I, as a member of this audience, wanted to read this study, is it available yet?
Not yet. It's currently under review at a peer-reviewed education journal. As soon as it's published, I'll make it available.
Excellent. I look forward to reading it myself.
Thank you.
I enjoy reading your statistics. I have for years. I'll just say I have learned more about statistics from Hirsch than from any other source. So that's a really good thing.
Considering there's probably no other sources.
Yeah. If anybody in the audience is willing to vote, if you haven't, we're going to do another poll after he displays the evidence and then just compare the difference between the polls. Not for any statistical thing, but just for our own edification. Lisa, do you have any further questions before we dive into the evidence?
Kind of. Do you think it's applicable to like other topics, or do you think if you, because I did a lot of summer school classes like chemistry concentrated during the summer versus dragging it out through the whole semester. And I kind of liked the summer school one just because I could focus on it, but also it's a lot of information to take in at once too. So I'm wondering, is there overlap with other studies?
I'm always hopeful that when I complete a study that if it's done strongly and the results are robust, I'm always looking for other ways to use what's found and facilitate what's referred to as external validity, which just means this could be applied in other places. So if this is successful, I could see other disciplines using this, like psychology, nursing, pharmacy,
Mm-hmm.
physical therapy, other clinical internships, or even non-clinical internships may benefit from this. But I'll hold off talking about that
Yeah.
before we get to the conclusion there.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't see
Okay.
the poll. Is it in the chat?
I see the poll.
It
I've
is
got
there.
the
Okay.
YouTube down here on another tablet.
Oh, yeah. I don't have that.
And right now it shows one person has voted, and there's 20 people watching, 19 besides me. If you all have an opinion and are willing to share it, pop that poll in place and do so quickly, because once Hirsch starts actually talking about the evidence and what the conclusion was, we're closing the poll, and we'll put another one in for after.
I vote
Lisa,
for
go ahead.
the part-time, longer, 15 weeks, part-time, whatever it was, the part-time. That's what I think is going to be more effective. That's just my
So
random
because
guess.
I think you can't reach, but I can, I'm going to vote on your
You vote for me?
vote. I just put. Oh, okay. Now I see that it has 10 votes. Okay.
I don't really have any good reasons for that. Just my personal experience. So.
This is not where we're expecting you to have very much confidence. This is
Yeah.
like, what's your initial guess?
That's
that
what
kind
it
of
is.
thing.
Random
Because
guess.
we just want to compare your initial guess to where you come in afterwards to see if the evidence moved the audience. That's really only the question. Okay.
And my only thought before I ran the numbers is I had hopes, but I had no speculation on what was happening. I was just really nervous, thinking, wow, if the summer session failed and they've done their 400 hours, what do you do with these poor people? So it was a real risk on behalf of the school to take this leap, although they did considerable literature review to find out that this isn't necessarily dangerous. It does have a chance, but you don't know until you do it in real life. And I didn't know. All I had was a hope and a wish.
If it had failed enough, would they do something like give the students the other class and pay for that?
You know what? I don't know how those decisions would have been made. I'm guessing it would have had a deep impact. I think I just tipped my hand a little bit here.
Yes. Well, I think I did too.
Okay.
To be clear, we talked about this last night, so I already know the answers. So I'm trying to not like
a little informed
telegraph
there. Yeah,
but that's okay.
I still don't know.
All right, so I would ask that the poll be closed. We have 10 votes, or whatever it is. We'll do the comparisons after. And so Hirsch, in SE, I'd probably go with a whole bunch of things about the evidence, but you can probably just lay it out for me immediately. You can just
right. So the comparisons that I did is I compared the end of the first semester evaluation with the 5-week, the end of the first semester part-time report with the 5-week report for the full-time students. And
so this would be the mid-course review.
Exactly.
Halfway through.
That's the midpoint review. So the part-timers had their end of their midpoint at week 15 of their first internship, and at 5 weeks for the full-time. And then I ran a comparison, the final internship for the part-time at 30 weeks, and compared those numbers to the 10-week, the conclusion of the summer internship. And on both domains, and at both points in all 9 capabilities, full-time came in lower than part-time. Excuse me. Wait, let me say that again. The full-time students statistically significantly outperformed the part-time students on all 9 capabilities.
All 9.
All 9 with a p-value of less than 0.001 at both the midpoint. At both the midpoint and the final point. And so this really caught us off guard.
So 9 separate results better than 3 sigma. Wow. Okay.
So right. So they're evaluated on 9 different domains of learning: ethics, diversity, so forth. All 9 at both the midpoint and the final. And the full-time students significantly outperformed the part-time students on all 9 at both the midpoint and the final.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm
And
surprised.
Okay.
yeah, very surprising and very exciting, because I was keeping my fingers crossed that statistically there would be no significant difference, meaning that the full-timers maybe performed a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but they didn't do any worse than the full-timers. And then the exciting thing there is that would tell us that, okay, now we have more ways for a student to fulfill their internships. So basically, what this tells us is we have a whole new way to do an internship. In fact, we want to do another study on this, is follow this. The reason for that is, just in generally speaking, good science is solidified by replication. If you find it once, that's interesting. If you can find the same findings a second and third and fourth time, and it's reproducible. So reproducibility shows the robustness of the methodology. I'm already on track to get the next set of data from the next cohort and see if this is consistent in our findings. But our sample size was pretty good. We had a total of 174 students, 145 part-time, and 29 enrolled in the full-time program. Now, there may be some reasons for concerns about this. There's no such thing as a perfect study. We, after looking over the results, came up with 3 conclusions here. Is how do we explain this overperformance, this unexpected overperformance of the full-time students? And one possibility could be, there's 3 that we came up with, and any or one of these could be factors. One could be selection bias. The director of the field office was very concerned about the dedication of the student to enter such an intensive program, because if you're a part-timer and you miss one day, it's not such a big deal. If you're a full-timer and you miss one day, that's like missing 4 sessions, and that's not funny. So they needed to make sure, I didn't set these criteria, the field director set this, needed to make sure that these were students who had a strong attendance and strong enthusiasm and were attentive and high performers. So that may have biased the numbers a little bit. The other thing that we thought accounts for this, and having been through these internships in my first and second year of my master's program, I could definitely see this. Second factor we considered was focus. Is normally these internships are done on a part-time basis, wherein you're working on master's level courses 5 days a week, the 2 days that you're in classroom and the other days that you're not. But you're in internship 2 days a week. And so your mind is on more than just your patients and the clinic and what's going on in the drama and the theater of being in a facility on a full-time basis. And also there's continuity. Continuity meaning if you're there every other day, just 2 days a week, you're not as steeped in the experience, and you're missing things that are happening in between your hours at the clinic. An example from my own history is I worked at, in my first year internship, it was at a 30-day rehab center for chemical dependency. So they were residential, and I was working with a patient, really nice guy. And I came in on Monday morning as he was walking out, and his 30 days weren't up. And he shook hands with me, very courteous, nice guy. I said, "You're leaving. What's going on?" And he said he lost his temper and broke a rule, and he was thrown out of the program, and that was the rule, and it did make sense, and he accepted responsibility. He's a real gentleman. But what and we shook hands and hugged, and I said, I hope, for the best, get back in board and all this. But what occurred to me there as I was examining the results here, there was a lot that happened between Wednesday when I left, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, elapsed with me not seeing any of what was going on. And then Monday morning happened. And so you're really, I mean, I think very graphically, on a part-time basis, you're up to it in your knee, but to your knees. But when you're full-time, you're up to it up to here. You're in it. You are in on all the big and little things that are going on and happening in real time, and it becomes your whole life. So that continuity could bring a stronger experience, because you're not only learning from your patients, you're learning from the interactions with the senior staff, with the other clinicians, with the other patients. If there's other interns there, you're learning from them. And so I'm thinking this may be the richer experience, and I'm very anxious to see what is lying in those numbers that I haven't gotten yet. And I'm ready to run this same analysis for the next year. And if that shows strength, then we've really got a platform to stand on. Very exciting that there's a whole other way that this learning could happen that could be even stronger than what's considered the traditional method.
Right.
So Gina asks, how would they account for students if you found students performing better in the part-time settings? Do you have reasons why that might be the case?
Well, it's not what happened, but I was speculating before we did this that maybe the full-time would be too rushed an experience.
Let me change the question. If next year you found confounding results, what might be the explanation? So
again, my thought was initially a 10-week program to do a whole year internship. Wow. That might be too rushed an experience. And I don't know if people can assimilate that much learning in that short a time. So that would be my speculation. If it turns out part-time performs differently next time, if that's the case, I would be much more interested in more deeply understanding these 29 full-time students and what made them so special, that they brought out such a strong performance. But it's great to be curious, but I want those numbers. I want to run the numbers.
Yeah, this is just step one, right?
Yeah, well, this is the first step, but I'm confident in the first step is that it was a viable sample size for the statistics that I ran, which was the Mann-Whitney U test. It's a 2-group test that is I'll get into a little technical. It's the non-parametric version of the t-test because we had a slightly skewed sample. The scores were more high scores than low scores, which made it a non-normal distribution. But it's all technical stuff. But the nice thing is that I didn't have to just look at the averages and say, yeah, that looks pretty much higher than that. But this definitively spells it out that you've got a statistically significant difference. And this is not happening by accident. There's definitely something systematic tipping these numbers so much higher than those numbers, the full-time so much higher than the part-time.
Can we pause for 1 second? Can we bring this back to beginner level street epistemology people like myself? Would the claim be full-time intensive has better results than the part-time internship, or is better way to learn? And that could be the claim. And then what would be the street epistemology question that you're already answering? But
well, I wouldn't really start with a claim. Usually in science, what you do is you come up with a research question.
Right.
And
right. Hypothesis,
the question would be, So,
and then
the hypothesis come off the question. Right.
Yeah,
and then the hypothesis come off the research question. So the research question is full-time and part-time performing equivalently? And the null hypothesis would be there's no significant difference between them, which is what we were hoping for. The alternate hypothesis, H1, would be there is a statistically significant difference, which is what ended up happening, except it flipped me out. I didn't expect that the full-timers would be the ones who came out on top on this.
Right. And that's how we should make decisions, right? In our lives, as you ask a question and then you see what information you can gather and then follow the numbers there. But for street epistemology, usually we start with somebody making a claim and then following up, well, how did you get to that result? Or why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that's true? And is there anything that could change your mind? And right now you're kind of going through of what you could find out in the future that you would change your results. right?
Right. So in empirical science, you start with a question that you think you may have some idea what the answer may be, but the evidence will show you, the numbers will show you. Now, if you wanted to put this in terms of the research question, having known the answer before we went into this in street epistemology, I could ask the question. My claim would be that full-time clinical internship significantly outperforms the part-time counterpart.
Yes.
And then if you ask me what is your evidence, then I would give you everything
All the
I just
statistics,
said,
the
and then you could
information.
make up your
Yes.
mind on what this is. And this is an empirical,
That's for the main reason. Yeah.
positivistic epistemology, right?
As opposed to, well, I just feel it really strongly, right?
Well, those are beliefs, and beliefs have their place, but to believe, all you need is what you hope for. Whereas in empirical, it's not what you believe, it's what actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be prepared to see the truth, not what you hope it would be.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Dali, like we do have a lot of examples in street epistemology of people who don't really have valid epistemology or the reasons behind their claim that they're making. And this is awesome
it's
to
common.
see. Here's my claim, and here's why, and take it or leave it, and here's what would change it.
So I want to poke in the
Seems
devil's
valid.
advocate position and say, many times I've seen studies that were done at the same time. And my understanding is these classes were not happening at the same time. Your control group was prior and your 10-week group was later. Is that correct?
No, they were concurrent.
They're concurrent.
This was
they're
the
concurrent. Fantastic.
2020-2021 cohort. And so, yes, so we did control for the time frame, and that's a good concern, is maybe things were different at this time versus that time.
Maybe the professors learned a new cool thing that helps.
Or maybe something was right, or maybe something was going on in the community that made things different here than there. But, no, these were tested concurrently.
Wow, cool.
And the next cohort again tested concurrently, which I already got agreement from the field office. They will provide me with the data. They're just coordinating everything. It's got to go from paper to Excel, and then I push it into the statistics program. So it takes a little time, but I may be back if you want.
I would like that, please. Hit us up when there's further result.
Sure.
The selection bias that you referred to, basically saying we only want to bring in people into the full-time course that we think highly motivated and have the time, or however that works.
Right.
Is there a way to fix that?
I don't know that they want to fix that. I think the traditional way of doing this is on a part-time basis. Anyone who wanted to step up and be part of this experiment, this full-time, needed to submit their names and apply for this and accept the risk that this may not be a great experience. We can't promise that it'll be great or even equivalent to the part-time. And naturally, they wanted to select people who they knew had at least the likelihood that they would be punctual and not skip a day.
Okay,
you lose a lot. Yeah. So
I'd like to invite questions from the audience.
Sure.
And I'd like to put up the second poll, because I think for the most part the audience has heard the evidence without being able to read the details. The second poll, basically the same as the first, but once you've heard the evidence. And if there are any questions from the audience, just type them in and we will reply them. And Lisa, do you have any further questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope. Okay, cool. So Hirsch, when you started, I heard you hoping for and being pretty much completely neutral on your expectation about the thing.
Yeah.
Now, not asking for a statistically rigorous number, but just where do you lean? Do you lean a little bit more likely? Do you think it's a lot likely? Do you think can you put any words or numbers on how sure you are now that, say, next year's numbers will ratify or whatever?
Well, again, I can't help but be impressed with these results. And now that we know something that we didn't know before, I'm expecting that the next cohort of bachelor students that bring in won't be any different from these people who were studied. And this was not a subtle effect. This was very robust findings. I'm inclined to believe that we're going to see this repeated. But belief doesn't tip the numbers this way or that way.
Sure. Sure.
I'm looking for. I mean, It's a skeptical, hopeful. If you ask me to guess, which you just did, I have reason to guess down that road. I have a lot of reason to guess down that road. The strength of the results was impressive. I've seldom seen statistics this striking. So that would be my guess, but a guess is a guess. I'd still wait to see what results rolled out of the statistics program. That's the truth.
That's an insufferably reasonable position that I should expect from a scientist.
Well,
thank you for that. Thank you for being an excellent example.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not going to vote in here because but Lisa, you certainly can.
What's the?
So now, would a 30-week part-time internship or a 10-week full-time internship be more effective? 30 weeks. So it's pretty much the same poll as before, but now that you've heard the evidence, this is for Lisa and the rest of the audience.
I've changed my vote based on the evidence presented.
Okay, so you can't see it, so I'll vote for you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm putting in Lisa's vote. Okay, good. Okay, very good. Dadas asks, how many such tests have been carried out independently?
Well, we only ran this at one site, one semester.
Okay.
And as I said, I'm very motivated to run this again and again. I will keep running it, see where this takes us, and hopeful that we'll see reproduce these findings. And if that's the case, the school is already, I've already revealed the results to the leadership in the department, and their thought is, if we can see this happening consistently, we're going to consider strongly making this available in the master's program as well. So already we're seeing the potential for expanding this external validity. But my thought, just conservative science, is we have the other data for the next semester. Let's hold off on making any huge moves until I can see what's going on, if this is actually reproducible or if this is just some fluke of a finding, which would really catch me off guard if that's what's happening. But already it's gotten some attention.
So another way to interpret Datas's question would be like the N, and I think I remember you saying 174 and 29. Is that correct?
So it was a total of 174. Right. So it was 174 total students, 145 part-time and 29 full-timers.
Okay. So in one sense, we could say that 174 tests were performed, or we could even multiply that by 9. But that's probably at that point not answering Datas's question.
Well, a total of 174 participants evaluated. Actually, there were 9 domains of professional capability and a total of 34 5-point scale questions that constitute those 9 domains. So it's a lot of data.
Okay. Dr. Enzai asks, is it possible to isolate the individual performance and factors?
We do have demographic data, but that wasn't really initially the question. And the demographic data is a little bit peculiar. I won't go into the details, but you need certain quotas to stratify the data. And mostly we have about 85, 90%. I'd have to look at the numbers. I did the demographics of females compared to about 10 to 15% males. And when it's that different,
Yeah.
with a sample size of 174, and then it's stratified into 145 and 29.
Sure.
It starts losing strength, and it's an interesting inquiry, but that wasn't our initial research question. We weren't really set up to slice the data that way.
So clearly, I would not want to generalize it to the population, but if I were generalizing it to the population of people in a college age doing such and such, so narrow it down to the people who would be in that cohort.
Well, actually,
is that gender balanced? Is that is the people attending college in these areas gender balanced to begin with?
Well, generally, those are the ratios that you'll see at any school for social work programs. Is they're
social work is 85% female-ish.
Pretty much, it's very similar to nursing. So if you want to study gender, that's an entirely different research question that needs to be run a different way. There are adjustments.
Right. I was just saying that was the demographic that you said was different than being able to say generalize the study to the overall population.
Well, now you're getting on to something else that's worth speaking of. It would be wise, instead of just saying, okay, well, we have our answer from this one school. Well, we're looking at Cal State LA, which is largely a Hispanic population. And that is not necessarily representative of what's going on campuses all over the country. And so my thought would be, well, we will share our metrics with you, and we encourage you to do the same at your site and conduct your same measurements and see what you get. And this is where external validity comes in, is as you can reproduce the findings at multiple sites with a heterogeneous population, this is starting to add more solidity to your findings.
Okay, very good.
In other words,
you've already answered the question.
If it starts working at other sites with other people, then it's like, okay, you're kind of onto something. But this is what we call a good start, and makes me want to keep my eye on this for another semester or two, at least.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when I get to read this one. You've already answered the question, and I'll just ask it because it's like street epistemology formal. What could you learn that would change your mind?
What did I learn that would?
What could you learn in the future that would change your mind?
I think if I found conflicting studies, if this turned out to be not reproducible, I'll say, wow, those were 29 really remarkable people. I wish I knew what it was in them. What was the secret sauce in those people at that time, at those clinics with those supervisors that made them rock? That would change my thinking, instead of now thinking, my thinking now is that full-time rocks. It's a great educational experience that outperforms what we have now. If it turns out further study shows that that's not holding, then I'm ready to say, wow, that was just a one-shot wonder. Glad we have a part-time program.
Cool. Let me just check if there's any further questions.
But yeah, I mean, I would let the facts take me in the direction.
We lost Dali. Oh,
I was just
there you are.
bending down to read. I was bending down to read the text. What effective means. So I would ask what effective means in this context. How many people or percentages who started the internship finished it? Were there any dropouts? Did anybody?
I think there were a few
complete?
Dropouts, which is pretty standard. And we just eliminated anyone that we didn't have a pretest, a midterm, and a final evaluation on. I think there were about 4 or 5 of the 145 that it came down to 145 after we eliminated the people who didn't complete.
Should I assume that the number of people who dropped out was in family in each case? It wasn't a lot greater percentage in one over the other?
In what?
So if I lose about 3% of the 30-week, do I lose about 3%? I mean, now we're talking about one person. So, but were the number of dropouts reasonably proportional between the two groups?
Well, there were no dropouts in the full time. All 29 full-time completed. Among the part-timers, I think there were a few that we didn't have a final on,
Yeah.
We had their mid-evaluation at 15 weeks. We didn't have their 30-week, and the field director said, "Oh, they had to drop out," and so I just dropped both their mid. I just threw them out of the study. It's like I want people who completed,
Okay.
and it was less than 1%.
Yeah. So fantastic. All right.
Very cool.
Well, thank you very much for this, Hirsch, and please
my
keep me
pleasure.
informed when there's a meaningful new data.
Sure.
I have one question to end up with the chat, and that is, right now, the study has not yet completed peer review. When it does, if it does, and you hear that it does,
Mhm.
would that change your confidence from where you are right now? Does peer review add to your confidence?
Peer
Or
review
not?
is good. It's not going to alter the numbers. Usually,
Right.
peer review is to look over the methodology and usually ask for further details to elaborate on something that might be an omission. But
Mhm.
you can peer review this all you want. The statistics will keep coming out the same. Peer review is going to be about the way it's written and the
Right.
layers of details that are included, and it's more about the writing, but there's no real other way to run these statistics. The
Right.
outcome isn't going to change.
My assumption is
Their
that
interpretation may
finishing
change.
peer review just means that nobody found any showstoppers.
So finishing peer review means that your peers, which are your toughest reviewers, these are people who know the science as well as you do, read through your work, and they call out any what they suspect might be errors or omissions or where you need more detail. And they're looking over your methodology to see if what you did complies with quality scientific methods, if your statistics are on track and readable. But I'm confident the statistics are strong. This isn't considered complex statistics. A first-year student could run these numbers with no trouble.
Cool. Thank you, Dr. Now. Thank you
My
very much.
pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to hearing the next about this and any other fantastic results that
I'll
you're
keep you
happy to
posted.
share with
Thanks
us.
so much.
Thanks for joining
Thank
the
you.
show today. It's really interesting.
So
Cool.
we are open to questions, comments. Somebody wants to call in. I'm hoping that that's easy in the links with the clicks and the things for people to jump in if they would like to talk about street epistemology or do some street epistemology. I want to claim that what we just did was in fact street epistemology, even though by format it probably was a little unfamiliar.
Yes.
And I claim
Okay.
that the main reason is because Hirsch already understood that we were looking for examining a claim and the validity of the evidence and what kind of evidence we would find valid, what the actual epistemology of the thing.
So
And
you had
rather
talked to
than
him
having me ask,
before?
yeah, I spoke to him last night when I asked him to come on the show, and he said, "Well, what are we going to do?" So I talked it out a little bit. Yeah, so
yeah, because he
I
already
was
knew
already ruined.
the questions. He knew what to go for already.
And I've had street epistemology conversations with him before. One, you can look back almost a year ago, something like 9 months ago, on the subject of medical hesitancy. So he's already familiar with street epistemology, and he and I have talked about it over the years.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine from more than 2 decades.
That's really cool. I wonder, like, how many people who watch the show or who listen to it are new or more beginners like I am. Like, I think if I had watched this conversation with you guys maybe a year ago, I would have been confused and lost.
Okay.
Like, because it sounded like he's just going through his study and his results, which was interesting to me because I like that kind of stuff. But
exactly.
I don't know if I would have made the connection, like, how is this street epistemology? Because I didn't hear your previous conversation.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing. In that I told him what my goals were, and then he started talking, and I didn't need to ask very many questions. He laid it all out.
He gets it already. Yeah.
Yeah, like oftentimes on Discord and that sort of thing, when both people in the conversation are very familiar with street epistemology,
Mm-hmm.
the epistemologist doesn't have to ask very many questions.
Yes, because they already
the
know
person will
what
answer this
would
one
change
and the
their
next three.
mind. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They know what
And
evidence should look like. Right?
Yeah. So Gina asked me to summarize Hirsch. So let me see if I can do this in 2 minutes. Hirsch was asked to do the statistics modeling for a study that was done where he is at a school where he is an adjunct professor. And Hirsch is specially qualified to do statistics. That's his strength amongst many. The statistics were to measure in as careful a way as they can the effective results of two different models of teaching, a 30-week model and a 10-week model, just to put labels on them, and to see if the 10-week model was at least as good. Because what the school needed to understand was that they were doing something that wasn't a detriment to the students. It passed if it was at least as good. And in this case, the statistics show that it was significantly better with a very high confidence. A probability that this was just a result that came out of random, that's the p-value, of less than 1 part in 1,000. So for me, that's about 3.5 sigma, which is awesome. Most of the time, statistics are considered statistically relevant or statistically meaningful when they approach a 5% chance of being just a random fluke or 2 sigma. So anyway.
Mm-hmm. And they had very clearly defined criteria that they were grading it on, right? It wasn't just
Yes, there were 9 separate areas, and these were already the criteria that were built into the midterm and finals test. So it's not a separate test.
Already in place.
These are the actual criteria that the teachers are being judged on.
Mm-hmm.
The students are too, but mostly it's for the teachers being judged on about whether or not they were successful in teaching everything. The students acquired the skills, the students understood the theory, they were able to perform the practice. And being an internship, I'm betting it was practice over theory, but I don't specifically know.
Yeah.
I think that's the summary. And of course it's a paper being peer reviewed, and I'll try to let you know when it actually gets published and throw a link at that point in case anybody wants to follow up on such a thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did I miss anything?
That was a good summary. Good. Can I ask for people to call in? Like, I'm really curious. Like, I've been thinking about this all week, about how people use street epistemology, like in their daily lives, with coworkers, with family, with friends. If anybody has any experiences with that, I would love to hear that, like just some successes just in normal conversations. I think that would be really helpful for me as a beginner and a new person who's learning. And I know a lot of people are kind of in my same situation who are just trying to figure out how to do this and what it is.
Yeah.
And I like to hear other people's stories in using street epistemology with family, particularly family, but also with just neighbors, friends, coworkers, just on a day-to-day. What's your situation like, Dali? Like when you talk to people, does it come up in your normal conversations?
Constantly. It has completely changed the way that I communicate to family, friends, and strangers.
Yeah, in what kind of way?
I'm able to take claims that I disagree with or that I find shocking and be neutral and ask useful questions and have a nice, steady, easy conversation about the subject without I will say with 90% less drama.
Drama, yeah. How long have you
90% less drama.
When did you learn about street epistemology? And how did you learn about it?
I learned about it about the time that Anthony started his channel. I was probably watching him within a year if he started publishing, and I also learned it from Dr. Bogosian at the time that he was talking about his first book, The Manual for Creating Atheists. I can't for the life of me remember whether I read the text or an audio book of it or just watched Bogosian talk about it for several hours.
Right.
Strangely enough, I can't actually remember whether I knew that book at that time or not. In any case,
been a
I've been
while.
following Anthony. Yeah, I followed
yeah.
Anthony for a long time. And then Reed and Ty. Reed Nicewander of Cordial Curiosity and Dr. Tyrone Wells of oh, good. Gina has a claim. Good, call in.
Yeah.
Dr. Tyrone Wells of the Let's Chat podcast. Those were my three primary influences before I think it was February of 20, a little bit before the pandemic. I met up with Reed in the park. He offered a meetup, and I went in there and then got obsessed.
It just clicked.
2 years. Yeah, I got obsessed with it. And as far as just clicked, I mean, you can probably watch my early stuff and watch me stumble through and call somebody on TikTok and make all the classic mistakes. But then I had really good, gentle teachers immediately giving me feedback and allowing me to get better and better at it. I did start with, being good enough because I had been practicing it in my personal life since 18. And in 19, I got serious. And in 20, I got public.
Wow.
So
it's a progression. Yeah, that's really cool.
It's a progression. Yeah.
Should we bring Gina in?
Yeah, go ahead and bring Gina in, and I'll answer Peter's questions. Are people who practice SE epistemologists? And I would say yes, if you will allow amateur epistemologists. That's what the street means. It's in the street. It's in the pub. It's the man on the street. It's the person who isn't an academic expert. An academic epistemologist is like a philosophy teacher, whereas the guy you talk to at the pub is just saying, let's talk about epistemology.
Title.
What do you think? Yeah, it's not a title. It's a description. Like, are you a baseball player if you are pitching?
Yeah.
You don't have to be any good.
I'm on an adult league and I play on every other Friday night, and for fun.
Are you?
Hi, Gina.
Are you, or is that an example?
Hey, Lisa.
No, I'm not.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Hey, nice to meet you.
You too. I've seen you on the SE Discord once or twice.
Yay. Yeah, I'm not on there that much, but I need to get on more.
And of course, I know Dali.
Very cool. You've been doing this for a long time, right, Gina?
A couple years. Almost two. Yeah. Almost two.
That's awesome. What brought you into street epistemology?
I think I was looking back in 2018 for ways to improve my own critical thinking, and I stumbled on Anthony's channel accidentally.
Yeah.
It took me a while to gather up the courage to try myself. I joined SE Discord in 20. I went, that's when I met Dali. I started practicing this summer of 20 there. And
in LA also?
No, I'm in Maryland.
Oh, that's the other side. So just on Discord.
Yeah, just on Discord.
Okay.
And then I finally went out for the first time and did public SE with Diamond Discourse and one other friend.
How cool.
And we're trying to get a group together in the DC area of people who want to practice this.
Do it. It's so much fun.
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah. Our Salt Lake City group is finally kind of coming together, and we got some regulars. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
The question I wanted to ask you about. I know you have a group going on Salt Lake, and I was wondering what advice you have for groups who just are just starting up.
Yeah, I don't know. We've just been going since December, so we're really new at this still. But so far, what has worked for me is having a consistent meeting date. So we meet every other Saturday because that's convenient for me, and I'm the one that plans it. So if anybody else wants to help, they are welcome to. There's our group. Join it. Street Epistemology, Salt Lake City. Yeah, so just having consistent meetings has been really helpful. And I get there on time. We meet at a library because it's free. Their meeting rooms are free. So we have two types of meetings. So one type of meeting is where we do the study and practice. So we learn about something for 15 minutes or so, and then we practice together with the claim cards, or people bring their own claims or just make some kind of claims. And then it's really casual. If you get stuck, you say, I don't know what to ask next. I don't. And then there's somebody will jump in. Well, what if you ask this? What if we say this? What's a good question here? And it's kind of a good group dynamic, a way to learn together without judgment, without, looking like an idiot in public too much. But so yeah, it's really fun, and sticking with a schedule, starting on time. We're doing this for 15 minutes. We're doing this for half an hour, and then I try to end it on time. We've never ended on time, but I say, okay, this is our ending time. If anybody needs to leave, you can go. If anyone wants to stay and practice a little more, you're welcome to stay. We have the room for an extra half hour. So we meet for an hour and a half, but I have the room for 2 hours. And I guess that's my only advice. Stick to a regular schedule and be consistent so people know that it's going to happen. If you miss one, you'll make the next one. And I'm trying to get more outdoor meetings where I'll post it on the meetup group, and sometimes people will show up, and the weather's been bad here, so it's kind of unreliable, but now it should be good over the summer. So I want to start doing that a lot more and just see what happens. And it's like an adventure. So try it. And you got to be a little bit flexible. And also I'm okay if nobody shows up. If it's just me, like, cool, I'll get some work done, or I'll whatever. Like, if everybody, that hasn't happened yet, but I'm like, it's not about me. It's not a personal thing that I'm offended that, they hurt my feelings and nobody showed up. They all flaked. Like, I don't care. So you just got to let that part go too. I know a lot of people do that, but yeah, try it. Do it. I recommend it. Yeah. Especially you have a lot more experience too. So this will be probably easier for you.
I'm not sure. Honestly, not sure.
And you guys have matching shirts. You guys are twins, Dali and Gina. You got your Street Epistemology shirts.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I got one last year.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. But yeah, post the group once you get it going. We can get people to join.
Yeah.
Do you have a claim?
I do have a claim.
Okay.
My claim is, I wrote that down too, so I won't forget.
Perfect.
Meditation and positive thinking manifest positive results.
Cool. You want to talk to her, Dali? Do you want to SE that claim?
I'd be happy to. She and I have done this claim before in the past.
Oh, you have?
So if you want to take it fresh, you can.
I feel like I've been talking a lot, but
I took the first 45 minutes. No, I don't mind. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell me what meditation, and you said meditation, and what was the other part?
Positive thinking.
Meditation and positive thinking. Please define those two terms for me.
Okay, meditation is active, sitting quietly, having a singular point to focus on, like a thought or a mantra. It could be a candle flame, or even just your breathing, following the in and out breath. And positive thinking, directing your thoughts in ways that, instead of feeling, I guess, scared or anxious or angry, just trying to see the silver lining in things, trying to find the good in every situation, like a positive. Well, I have my ink over now. I can stay in and watch YouTube videos. Focusing on what you want to see.
Okay. So, you said anger and anxiety, and I think you used another word, but would that be an example of a negative result?
Yeah. Those would be negative thoughts or negative feelings.
Okay. Anger, anxiety.
Yeah.
What was the third word? Do you remember?
Fear.
Fear, anger, anxiety. Okay. Could you describe what a positive result looks like?
Joy, excitement, gratitude.
Okay. Joy, excitement, gratitude as compared to fear, anger, anxiety. Those are really nice because they're very opposite on scales. That's a really cool deal. Do you find that the result consistent, and is the result, so that's, sorry, it's a compound question. Do you find the result consistent?
No,
it's inconsistent.
It's inconsistent.
Okay. Is it more often than not? Is it two-thirds, one-third?
More often, maybe 60% more often.
Okay, so 60% of the time you get a positive result. And is this during the meditation, or after, or during and after?
After. Sometime
How
after,
long,
yeah.
How long, what's the time scale, roughly speaking? Are we talking hours, days, weeks?
It could be days or weeks.
Okay. If you do meditation more often than on that time scale, like if you were to do meditation every day, is the positive effect accumulative?
Is it compounded? Does it build up over time?
Yeah. Does it stack? To use game terms.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So, what evidence do you have that this is the case? And if you like, I can ask more specific questions if that seems too broad.
Can you narrow it down for me, please?
Sure. So I would think the kind of evidence that would show this would be your own personal experience, and maybe the reports from other people having that same personal experience, or perhaps something objective where, for example, a person does meditation and then someone outside of them measures their apparent joy, positivity, positive motion compared to their fear, anxiety, and anger. So it'd be like personal experience in the first person, personal experience in the second person, or objective observations in the third person.
I think.
And anything else that I didn't think of, because I was just looking for categories.
Positive experience or positive direct experience in the first person and the second person.
Okay.
Like getting data from others, from people I know, not just myself, but also trying this for myself. I think that's it.
So you have evidence of the first type and the second type, first person and second person evidence.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I want to poke at both of them. Poke hard.
Go ahead.
One, is there a way that you could be fooled into believing that it was 60%, a 60-40 split, when it was really a 50-50 split? And I'm assuming that 50-50 split means that the meditation really didn't have any neutral. It didn't have any effect. That's what I'm defining as a 50-50. Did that make sense?
Like Let me try to understand the question. Okay. You're asking. No, I'm going into SE mode.
Yeah, that's fine. This is a demonstration of SE, so go ahead and show the bones.
Okay, so what I think you're asking here is like, is there ways I could like be leaning too heavily on a positive result where it shouldn't be?
No, I mean fooled into thinking there was a positive result when there wasn't, like counting the hits, ignoring the misses, kind of. I've seen that.
Like
So
confirmation bias?
Could be confirmation bias. It could be all sorts of other kinds of bias, but sure. Yes, Texas sharpshooter pelleting. Sure. Look, over these weeks I showed such a positive example, and I'm going to choose that as my
around the answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm not asserting that this is the case. I'm only asking you if
is it possible?
How is it possible? Is it plausible? And can you have confidence one way or the other?
I'm not sure I could.
Okay. So you might be a little blinded to your own biases in this case.
I might be.
Okay. So now the second one, other people reporting on their own experiences. Could they be biased?
Problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So what motivations would you or other people have for reporting positive results if the results weren't actually positive?
Wanting it to be true. Wanting to feel like they're making some positive difference or acting in a way to create an end that maybe isn't really doing any good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think wanting it to be true could come from nothing more than I invested a bunch of this time. I want it to have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially the mental discipline of calming the fuck down. Yeah. Yeah. If I had talked about three types of evidence. You got your personal, you got first person, second person, third person. If there was some of that third person evidence for or against your claim, would you want to know it?
I think I would.
Okay, I'm going to deliver a message then, because you asked, and that is Sam Harris has made many references to a bunch of studies, neurological studies using monks who are quite familiar with meditation compared to control groups of other people doing meditation or not, and finding rather huge benefits, which I would invite you to look up the studies that he references, and that would be third person. I would. I don't have them in the moment. I will try to maybe Google them and link them later, but the search criteria would be Sam Harris meditation studies.
All right, writing that down.
Cool. Yeah. So, what could you learn in the future that would adjust your confidence up or down? I know that's a compound question.
Well, I was expecting it, so
yeah.
That would be some maybe more objective data. It says actually that meditating and thinking positively actually does make a difference. Opposite, about the same. Like it makes absolutely no difference at all, or it even worse or even more impactfully that it has a negative effect.
Okay. So just essentially further evidence, and then you'd look at the balance of evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Lisa, do you have a prior estimation on the claim?
What do you mean?
Before you think about her data, did you come into this with an opinion, yay or nay, on
About
meditation being beneficial in this way?
I have an opinion on the topic based on
Uh-huh.
my own personal evidence.
Okay.
Oh,
so Gina, are you happy for us to three-way this?
Sure.
Okay, great.
I only have a few more minutes. I do have to go. But,
Gina, did you put a confidence level, a number of your
I
confidence?
don't think I did.
Because I know you talked about it going up or down, but
it was too slight. It was too slight for me to ask.
Oh.
But go ahead.
But yeah.
I'm very low confidence on this. I'm under 50 now.
Oh, see,
it shifted.
Okay.
Shifted down.
What was it at the beginning? Was it higher?
What was it before, Dali? Do you remember?
When we've talked about this last was probably a little over a year ago, and you were in shift on the question, I remember, and you had come from a worldview that was very confident, and you had already moved down to not at all very confident and looking for ways to pin down your confidence better.
Yeah,
that's my memory of it. What actual numbers, I don't remember, just the words around it.
So if you were to put a number on it, like right now, is that possible?
I'm under 50% now, only maybe 40.
Under 50. And it was higher earlier? Am I understanding that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I was thinking I've gone up a little bit after this conversation.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
interesting. Me too, but more from our prior conversations than this one.
In the past?
Yeah. I mean, my prior conversations with Gina on the topic had got me thinking about it and had raised my confidence slightly.
Yeah, I think the definition of positive results makes a difference to the way I'm looking at it. Because for me, I guess the positive results would be I can spend 5 minutes meditating and then I'm just more calm and more focused and I feel better. And it just took 5 minutes, like whether there's any physiological differences that happen or anything measurable. I don't know. And I don't know if I care that much because I get positive results and it doesn't change my life much. But I guess if I heard more information how it was useless, maybe I'd have to come down on that as well.
I think the problem is with this that they also assume that the opposite is true. That if you don't get what you're wishing or working for, then it was because you were being negative or you weren't focusing or believing enough.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the law of attraction type thinking, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. Yeah. That I'm with you on that one for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Gina.
Thank you very much.
Do you have some more final closing thoughts or remarks before you have to go?
Thank you for your help, Lisa. I appreciate it. Thank you for going through this with me, Dali.
Contact me anytime if you have questions about groups.
Sure.
Starting a group. Yeah.
I will. Cool. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
I think I saw Dadas make a claim right there. I think the claim would be something like, it's not always good to think positive. It could be dangerous. Dadas, would you be willing to come talk to us about that?
It's not always
anybody
good
else,
to think
because
positive.
It's kind of first come, first serve.
How could thinking positive be dangerous? That's my question.
I'm totally not going to answer that.
You have answered? You have an opinion on it? If he
Oh,
calls
very
in,
much.
that would be cool.
Yeah, I very much have an opinion on this.
Okay.
And I'll try to keep it to myself until after the
Okay.
claim is discussed with someone else. So Dottis, if you're willing to call in, that would be just delightful. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you in a year. Yeah, definitely. Awesome job, Gigi. And
Yeah.
anybody else, it is first come, first serve. You can also ask meta questions about street epistemology or, well, anything else. If you want to ask meta questions about basements and t-shirts, that's okay too.
Are you in your basement?
I am. This is the ground floor that I'm poking at the floor of.
Oh.
These are the beams of this house that was built in 1890.
Wow. And you have chickens down there.
I do. I have chickens that live with me, and they live in the basement because they're not as welcome in the house, and they're not as welcome in the backyard because they are little tiny bantam chickens, about the size of pigeons.
Do they have names?
They do. The one you were just looking at that came out to visit is named I. That's the lowercase I, the square root of -1.
Yes. The irrational number.
Yeah, the imaginary
number. Yeah, it's been a while.
Imaginary number. The other hen is named sigma, which is the scientific term for how we measure confidence in our results.
Okay.
And then the other one that you're not seeing right now is my rooster. His name is Miles.
Miles, that's so cute.
Yeah, I can pull those out at some point. Too late here. Okay, Dottis,
too late.
That's fine.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, totally understandable.
How's the boat
doing?
Let's get down to the important stuff.
Yeah, this week there is a change in my opinion about the boat.
For those of us who don't know about the boat, what are you talking about?
I have lived on our family's trimaran that we are converting to solar electric, for the last several years because it's been very good for me to have solitude and quiet of the marina and those kinds of things. Again, I very much agree with her. Meditation reducing anxiety. Anxiety is a chronic problem for me, so I have to concern myself very much with that particular thing. And meditation and solitude is a big help there. And my pets being there with me on the boat are big help. My cats and my birds.
Oh, cute.
And I got a call from the marina from a new marina manager who was very rude and nasty about the chickens and forced us to remove the chickens from the boat. And that's kind of also, I'm choosing to remove myself from the boat. Because if I can't have my pets with me, the solitude is too solitudinous.
It's a different vibe. Yeah.
It's a different vibe. So, so at least in the near term, I'm going to be at home in our land home much more. And I'm probably taking over the basement as my bedroom.
That's cool.
So we'll see. Yeah. Top floor penthouse mansion. Yes. Yeah, that's
absolutely
not it. No, you're confusing me with a different street epistemologist.
Oh, okay. See, that was my question. How can thinking positively be dangerous?
Okay. Oh, yeah. My abuser
80
is going to change as long as I stay positive. Yes.
Says
thinking
my abuser
positive,
is,
especially if you think it has magic power. If you buy into the law of attraction completely, you will make wrong and bad decisions and unwise decisions, and you will forgive too much until it breaks. Yeah, standing in a busy highway thinking positively that no car will hit you. Yes, believing that a miracle will save you is dangerous. Very, very bad. Believing the best about people and trusting them beyond good odds. Things like that. I forgive. I don't forget. I have no need to forget in order to forgive.
There's definitely a thing called toxic positivity. That now that I'm thinking about it,
say it. Yeah,
because you're so
toxic, and then things
always
that follow
believing
after
in
interesting
the positive side to your own detriment. Can be that could be very dangerous. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, there are so many ways in which, if you take the notion too far, that it can be bad and dangerous and make you a victim. And I think that there's a lot of nonprofit organizations, to not be too specific, that use
that don't pay taxes.
Most of them, yeah, most nonprofit organizations don't pay taxes. That doesn't narrow them. And that use what I would think of as a toxic notion of positivity and about how your beliefs can change minds to hijack a person's epistemology into working against their own interests, usually in the favor of the interests of the nonprofit organization. And I am specifically avoiding mentioning religion. They are in that group, but they are not in any way solely in that group. I think there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that you would not think of as religious that also do that tactic.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to
I think those are dangerous and troublesome. Yeah.
To the point where I was taught to look on the bright side, to forgive, and let go of things that have happened to you, to look for the silver lining. It's a test from a higher power, so look at it like a blessing if you're struggling or you're being in a bad situation. And to always like look for the good, focus on the positive, focus on the happy, and like to try to force your brain to think that and ignore the facts. Yes, optimism bias.
Yeah, optimism bias. Yeah. There's a bunch of I guess I'm just going to categorize them as MLMs, multi-level marketing, that use that. You got your Amway, you got your various things, and they have weaponized that optimism bias.
They're huge here in Utah.
Yeah,
so many of them. It's crazy, and they're all like feelings based too. Like make you
can
feel
prove
good
this based on your feelings. Well, that's going to work in an area where there's Mormons, because
everybody's like,
their
yes,
main
I
proof.
get that. The spirit tells me it's true.
I
feel good about it. Therefore, it must be true. And $15,000-$20,000 later, you spent all your savings and you're out of luck. But somebody else is happier.
Maybe, probably
at the top of the chain.
Yeah.
The rest of us, not so much. We need some more callers.
We do.
A couple more callers.
We have, let's see, I think we have 34 minutes remaining.
Okay.
Because we like to end before, if I'm understanding this right, I've been gone for a while, so things might have changed when I wasn't looking. But I think we want to end before the regular street epistemology practice on the street epistemology Discord. That usually is the Australia-friendly one handled by Michael Moody,
who I haven't met yet.
Yeah. Oh, you should meet Michael. He's so awesome.
Okay.
He's one of my awesomest people.
Very cool.
Completely rocks. Yeah. Let's see.
Does positive thinking and God belief have a common root? They both seem to stem from desire for comfort, maybe. I would agree with that.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with that, but this is just my own personal opinion. My own personal analysis is that religion and these other groups that work similarly operate by hijacking a person's epistemology. They don't so much tell you what to believe, but how to believe and how to believe differently than is necessarily wise. And as a result, can sneak their beliefs in, as well as an immunity to countering beliefs. A big part of the hijacking is teaching you how to specifically ignore data that would disconfirm your belief.
Oh, absolutely. What was the original question?
Does positive thinking and God belief have a common root? Yes, I think so. I also think they are not a one person who came up with it. I think they are evolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
I think humans run the whole gamut of ideas and try out all the things, and then some of those things work significantly better than other of those things, and so those are the ones that grow virally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the source of religion, but my evidence is vague and sort of going across a whole lot of, could be confirmation bias, could be my own view of history, could be a bunch of different things.
The desire for comfort, like, who wants to be uncomfortable? Nobody. Like, don't we all have a desire for comfort? Like, I don't want to sit in a pokey chair or wear shoes that are too tight. Like, so, and you apply that to your beliefs as well. And if you have a flawed epistemology and you'll accept beliefs that sound comforting, and you're told that it's true, and you know, kind of indoctrinated, or you value that comfort over, that's so much easier to just dive right into that, because who doesn't like comfort? Like, don't we all buy a nice mattress and pillows and like things that add comfort to our lives, and air conditioning and like, so the desire for comfort is normal.
I'm very specific about the pillows that go under my head. They have to be the right kind, or it's just like, no, I'm going to search around and find the right pillow.
Yeah, not this one. Yeah. And if somebody takes your pillow, you go looking for it till you find the right one. So it does come down to the epistemology and what you accept as valid reasoning versus just sounds nice. But what were you going to say?
Peter W. asks, what does Dali think about KFC? I think KFC is more expensive than most and quite tasty, and relies more on its breading to be tasty than the quality of the underlying meat. I am a meat eater, and I share my meat with my chickens, but not the chicken that I eat. I have a thing about cannibalism, something about prion diseases. But
is there a connection between prion disease and cannibalism? I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes. There are proteins that there are proteins of a shape that crystallize similar proteins to twist into the same shape. It's the same components, but it's twisted into a weird shape. And those shapes are called prions. And then when you start laying on additional proteins and they conform into the same shape, they create a crystal, a protein crystal. Okay. I'll let the chemist decide whether that's the right name for them. But in any case, it's we have mechanisms inside of our cells to find these messed up proteins and to break them down into amino acids and recycle them. But you can get some of these proteins that overwhelm that, and that leads to hoof and mouth disease and Alzheimer plaques, and there's a mad cow diseases. Those are all examples of prion diseases. These are the mechanism that I just described. There's normal proteins, and if they create these crystals in the brain, they disrupt brain function. With humans, most of the time, if we get a prion disease, it's because we ate a monkey's brain. Primates that's close enough to us that our proteins and their proteins are close enough to influence this, and the monkeys get it because they eat each other. So if I eat a species far enough away from me, there's very little chance of the prion disease. But if I eat a species that's very close to me, my chances are greater. And if I do direct eating of the brains, nerve columns, that sort of thing of an animal that's exactly like me, like we fed cows. Cows in Britain were fed the bone meal of other cows to put back the calcium in the lipids, and that led to prion diseases and caused, was this a decade or two ago? I forget how long ago, but
I remember hearing
British
about
meat
that.
industry basically had to kill their entire sets of herds because of this.
Was that mad cow?
Mad cow, yeah. So
Alec is here. Does Alec want to talk to us?
Yes, please.
Yep. So,
Not to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
No,
Go ahead,
Alec.
I'm doing a
Where are you?
bit.
It's frozen.
You're a lot in and out,
Oh, here.
so I'm not hearing you very well, Alec.
Oh, there you are.
Is good now? Yeah. No.
Yes, it's good.
Well, like I was just gonna say, like that I'm doing some gardening. So I don't know, like if my face should be in the camera at all times or
Yeah,
not.
sure.
Yeah, it's great. Welcome.
If I can hear you
Yeah,
well
but,
enough, the face is secondary. But yes, thank you for inviting us to your garden.
Well, it's
It
not
looks
super
nice
mine,
outside.
but well, from my mom.
Very
Yep.
cool.
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, anyways, I'm doing well.
Do you have a claim you'd like to discuss with us, or other street epistemology related something?
Claim yes. Yeah. So or for like future reasons, or the claim that I want to posit is that in order to
And
uh,
we lost you
Could
again.
you repeat the claim? We dropped out.
Sure. So, like in order to make scientific beneficial advances, sometimes methods have to be used.
Okay, in order to make beneficial scientific advances, science should follow consistent methods. Is that right?
No.
No.
Like sometimes unethical methods are justified.
I missed a word. Okay,
yes.
Scientific advance sometimes requires violating ethical rules.
Yes.
Something like that? Okay, could you describe the ethical rules in question?
Yeah. Well, was like okay. So let's like for an example, as an example, if I want to make great strides in, for example, like the brain interface sector,
okay,
the current regulations regarding human trials are very, very strict.
Yes.
Well, and essentially, you can't coerce people into you can't coerce people into participating in those experiments with like money or anything. Like they have to be like wholly willing. Like they have to go through like psychological analysis, etc. But the thing is, like I believe that in order to make good strides, like in order to make strides that would like push that industry forward, let's say like 10 times as fast, it would be sort of fine to skip some of those steps in order to achieve that advancement. Assuming that advancement is like a big deal.
Okay.
Not a big deal, but assuming it's very effective.
Okay, so you're saying that in the ethical rules in some cases are too strict, and we would be better to soften some of those ethical rules in order to get a better result faster?
I mean, you could, or you could just go to places where they are ignored, and be still, I think, somewhat ethically justified.
Okay, so go to a venue where those ethical rules are softened, so you can make results faster. Yes. I assume the justification is that any damage that comes from the ethical rule being violated would be offset by the benefits of the results.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as long as there was like some amount of care, and I could provide an example of some amount of care.
Okay. Yeah. What I'm interested in the edge
like an
case.
Example.
Go ahead. You're going to give me an example. Give me the example first.
Are you saying like in like the? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, for example, like let's say that like you want to do like this type of brain like interfaces. For instance, like you don't want to go through like the very lengthy process, and so like you choose to offer people in poor economic needs, and that also probably won't live that long. Like this opportunity.
Okay. So
Like
people who are poor, where
like
you can easily pay them enough,
or skipping like some or all. Yes.
Skipping some or all. Okay, we're cutting out a little bit, so I'm trying to
skipping some or all are therapeutic.
Okay. So in the case of and you mentioned poor and terminal patients.
Yes.
Would you pick one or the other of those to explore first? Because they do seem categorically different.
Let's say poor.
Okay.
Yes.
So I go to poor people and say, I would like to pay you to for you to take a bunch of risk while I poke things in your brain to maybe help you and to much more maybe help other people.
Well, I mean, help other people. Help them is just like a secondary thing. Well,
so like it might not even directly help them.
Like you would just be studying them.
Sure. Okay.
Depending on what you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a notion in your mind how much we should pay a person per % of risk on their life or something?
Like it probably depends on the grade of damage. But if it's, for example, like the type of damage where they'll be unable to function, or like they'll die, like I assume that would be probably, it would probably also depend on like who they are. But it's actually enough, like for them or for their like beneficiaries to live off for, let's say, like 10 years.
Okay. So you give them a big life insurance policy and a disablement and dismemberment policy, where if they do have these kinds of damages that come off, they actually their survivors would have a significant benefit.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the survivors or the family of, well, yeah, assuming those are the people that would do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to them to decide who are the survivors or the beneficiaries of a life insurance policy or something.
Yep.
Okay. This is interesting because this is a conversation I've had many times with Hirsch. And he has very strong opinions about this kind of thing because it's his day job. Human studies are his day job. So
well, not me, no, but like
lots and lots of reference.
Okay.
The audio is not great.
Yeah, audio is very choppy.
It's really hard to follow along for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I may just keep going with that then.
Okay. So it sounds like this is a moral claim about competing moral concerns. One is protecting people from being exploited to their detriment, and the other is providing very significant life-changing benefit from the scientific results of the study.
Yes.
Would this be similar to if I had a prisoner, somebody who was serving out a prison sentence, and I offered them a significant reduction in prison sentence for going through my my study that was potentially dangerous to them? What would that be similar?
Yes. Okay. As long as they were aware of all the risks. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm back to Stanley Kubrick and Clockwork Orange. If anybody wants a visual, that was the plot of Clockwork Orange.
I should see that maybe.
Oh, you should definitely see Clockwork Orange. That is a classic and amazing piece of visual literature.
I haven't seen that either. I think it's rated R.
It's the beard is this long. Clockwork Orange was, I think, made around the time I was born. Okay, so it's a long time ago, but it was a really good movie. All right, so where would you want to draw the limits on it? So you're in this hypothetical, you are defining an alternate location in the world where you get to describe the rules for medical research, medical experimentation. Where would you put the new limits?
I think that I would have a gradient. Well, it's like depending on like how harmful or like how life altering it would be, or you could or would target different people. But there's almost like no limit, and like even if there's like something that kills you, like there will still be people that'll be like willing to do it just because, for example, like they're like, well, or
sure,
well, yeah. Well,
we can recruit soldiers. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. No, you find people.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing that in your ideal world, those limits would be the free will of the individuals. I'm an open contract theory at that point. Yeah. So one of the examples given when, go ahead, Lisa.
Why would it be just limited to people of low income? Why not just offer any volunteers of any, if somebody wants to volunteer for whatever reason, and sign a disclosure statement or whatever those would be called.
Well, people like definitely like would go for it, sure. I'm just saying like people that are poor, right? Just because like those people would just be or more likely, for example, like to undergo or such a thing, like just or just like their family, for example, would like live like a better life, like after the fact.
So there would be a financial compensation for this person. Would there be any downsides to offering a massive financial compensation to a family?
Yes, very much so. Yes. Well, I guess like it would have like a backfire effect. Like there would probably be people that like there would probably be people that would normally not or do this sort of thing. Essentially go for it just because they don't like think of the future. Phrase it. Or because like they don't like realize, for example, like having like this amount of money, like even like it will be freeing in some ways. Like the fact that you undergo these it's like experimental tests, like that will also affect your life, and you're not balancing that correctly. That will happen, yes.
What about like family members pressuring other family members to volunteer?
That will happen, yes.
And that's just part of the price in your mind?
Well, I mean, I would probably or move this like not under all medical experiments. I would just move this under experiments or like that. Okay, like I would like move this actually. So after that, like I wouldn't want governments or to say that you can or can't do this for certain type of experiments. I would just say that like I would just say that, like for companies that want to make certain scientific advancements, like it's not wholly unethical for them to go into other places that have more lax or laws about this and like do experiments there. But I wouldn't want like governments regulating like this sort of thing more than they do now.
Is there anything you could learn that would change your mind on that?
Um. Well, if there was companies, what no, uh, or if there was, or enough companies essentially defrauding people, or not divulging certain information, uh, I think that that would be problematic. But uh, as long as that isn't the case, widespread enough, and I don't think it will be, just because I don't think that would hypothetically cost a lot.
Mhm.
Generally, no.
Nothing you could learn.
Oh no, there's definitely things that I can't learn. I just can't think of them at the moment.
Right. Okay.
So imagine that there's a place in the world. I'll call it a country, but it doesn't have to be a country. Just whatever place that is, where the vast majority of the population has a really strong belief in the afterlife, and that this life is completely worthy of just shaking off and doesn't really matter. If they were to agree to these medical tests and take some significant risk on their life, not that it's definitely going to kill them, just any significant risk, would you consider that their decision was well informed?
Because I'm not a theist, technically no. But
Okay.
in the whole schema, it's good enough. I get where they're coming from, even though I think they're wrong. But I get where they're coming from.
Uh-huh.
And
if a lot of their motivation for being willing to take the risk was their belief in the afterlife, is it fair?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What's your confidence that? I guess the confidence isn't in the claim, because it's a claim about values, and so you have this value. Yes, of course you do. But how about the claim that implementing this value would have a net positive effect?
Right. I'll run that positive. I'm at like a 70, 80, somewhere there.
Cool.
If it's overall, if you said certain industries, or if you said certain industries, my confidence value would change. But if it's just overall,
so which industry would you think would have a strong likelihood of having a net negative effect if they were to operate by your value?
Let's see.
And then I'm going to ask the other side of that question too.
Yeah. Well, net negative is hard, just because it'd have to be very, very widespread. Either that or even if it was very, very detrimental, but at a small scale. I wouldn't think that that's net negative. I don't know of an industry that can do this sort of thing at a large enough scale, and and technically afford it.
How about? Go ahead.
I was gonna say that. Drug companies that focus on things that aren't afraid of, drug companies that focus less on our human health and more secondary type drugs. I would say those are a little bit more negative, but still not overall negative. Unless they start to test in millions to tens of millions of people, then at that point, then in that case, ARCA would be net negative.
Okay. If the alternative question was what companies or particular technologies or whatever would have the greatest benefit ratio under your value?
Yeah. Invasive well, not invasive brain surgeries, like invasive brain-computer simulation. Invasive brain, invasive
Machine
brain
person
computer.
interface. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm thinking Neuralink, like Elon Musk's little side project.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That and also companies that focus on anti-aging research, and I don't mean like the pill type. Or if anyone knows, like David Sinclair, essentially like trying to biologically reverse the age of cells. That does require some human experimentation, and that's something that probably can be very, very much net positive.
Okay, so anti-aging at more than a cosmetic level. Then so. would gain greater benefit because because a lot of people would gain years to their life, while only a few people lost to them. Is that the idea?
Like in his in his hypothesis, or essentially like the old not the older you get, like a lot of diseases are called by old age, and the fact that like cells when they like essentially like the more times that cells replicate, the more times that something goes wrong. It's like essentially like if you can reset that, not only will you lengthen people's lives, but they're also less likely to develop various diseases in the first place.
Yeah. If you could somehow reverse dropping off telomeres and reverse the tendency for cancerous cells, and if, a bunch of things like that, you could definitely improve people's lives. Do you think that is impractical to achieve the results under the current system, or are you just thinking that it's 10 times slower than it could be if there were almost no restriction, maybe?
10 times slower. Just because the process is very long, very tedious. I've done research in like non-biological fields, and that isn't short, but biological fields, it's just so long just to do basically anything with human subjects. So,
okay, what could you learn that would shift your thinking on this? Could you see an example of a study and you go, okay, I was wrong. Whoops.
In the fields that I think are positive, or in any field?
Well, let's take both. Let's ask both questions. Maybe in the very negative side, you could say, no, this field isn't allowed. This field is not allowed to use my thing because their benefit isn't sufficient. What would that be?
Yeah. Or like something like you mentioned earlier, or that would be or cosmetic things. And so like I think that like that's something that or it doesn't. No, okay, that doesn't. But seem like it. Like I don't think that it would increase like overall human well-being more than it would detriment. Or considering like what we know about tests that have already been done and how wrong like they have gone when unchecked. But for net positive, okay. So, for example, for like brain neural interfaces, if I saw that like 99% of all like experiments just like flat out failed and the person just had or terribly disastrous effects.
Okay.
And there's like if I saw like a very, very low success rate among a very, very large amount of people, that would change it. Yes.
Okay, so if the observed positive and negative effects were order of magnitude outside of your experience, then you would say, okay, no, that's just not working. Something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We've only got a couple more minutes.
We have to finish up. So, okay. Lisa, do you have any final questions?
No, I've just been sitting back and listening and enjoying the conversation.
Good. Yeah, I'm trying to. So, where would you sit on? I think the guy is Dr. Joseph Mengele. He worked with the Nazis, and he dehumanized people to the point where they were allowed to be used for experiments without any concerns. And if the patient was going to die, that was perfectly okay. Obviously, that's on the far side of your line.
Well,
so
and
I'm
these are
looking at what's
reasons
the
why
line between that one and
these
yours.
ethical laws exist, right? Because of
Yes.
The ethical laws are written in blood, no doubt about it.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, like in cases like that, like the difference between like the difference between a case like that and the sort of thing that I am proposing is that like there's still like some laws like there's still like some thought given to like human life. Like what happens like to the person after like after like the experiment, like the amount of like the amount of like free choice that one has in order to participate in such experiments. I think that'd be the main difference. I don't think there'd be any person that would look at that and other such experiments and say that like that was net beneficial just because like that was like less coordinated in my view. That was just like throwing a whole lot of stuff at a whole lot of people and see what happens.
We don't really have time to finish this in great detail. Thank you very much for bringing this claim. It's been interesting and fascinating and thought-provoking. And
interesting topic.
Interesting topic. And I'm not going to comment further. I'm very interested to, if you watch Clockwork Orange and it affects your thinking or gives you reflection, please call back and give me that review. I think you will enjoy the movie Clockwork Orange. Many people have.
I'm going to watch it too.
1971.
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick.
Almost 50 years old.
A Clockwork Orange. Yeah, it was done almost when I was born. I was born in the 60s.
Cool.
So excellent movie. Thank you all for coming to our talk show. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Alec.
Thank you, Alec.
For participating.
Thank you, Hirsch. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, everybody. And bye.
Bye. Anybody